Hello and welcome back to Newcastle Airport. Today is a glorious sunny day, so today I thought we'd have a little bit of fun. We're going to take the Cessna 152 out on a VFR flight from Newcastle, Echo Golf November Tango, out to Carlisle Airport, which is Echo Golf November Charlie. We're going to do this with VFR rules, and I'll be showing you how I do VFR rules using a flight plan with a stopwatch and as much use of visual references as possible. So I'll not be using any extra aids such as GPS, things like that. The reason why I chose the Cessna 152 today. The route that we're going to take today, I've got a navigaph here. Taking off from Newcastle Airport. Let's expand this up a little bit. Take off Newcastle Airport, leg 1, which is 6 nautical miles for 261 degrees. That takes us out to Ouston and the former Royal Air Force station of RAF Ouston, a World War II station, where we'll then turn left onto a heading of 250 for 8 nautical miles to take us to the market town of Hexham. From there, a slight right hand turn for a 13 nautical mile leg on 268 degrees. That will take us to the market town of Haltwhistle, where a slight left hand turn will take us to 261 degrees for a 10 nautical mile leg into the market village of Brampton, which is just 3 nautical miles away from our destination airport of Carlisle Airport. So that's our route. I'll explain how the stopwatch is going to work once we get airborne. So let's move that back over there. Okay, the weather today in Newcastle is clear. Well, you can say it's clear skies. I'm using live weather. It's clear skies with just a couple of knots headwind. A couple of knots tailwind on runway 25, but I'm still going to take runway 25 because that's taking us out in the right direction that we want to go, just for the sake of simplicity. 2 knots is neither here nor there for the sake of today's flight sim flight. But when we do get to Carlisle Airport, the current weather is, where is it? I've got wind coming out of 160 degrees at 4 knots. So when we get to Carlisle, if that is indeed remains the same, we will land on runway 18. So what we will do, we will switch on our fuel. Let's move the yoke out of the way for a moment. Put the mixture full in, carb heater full in, turn on the batteries. We'll switch on our beacon and our pitot heater and our dome light. Switch on, what's next? That should do that. Magnetos. And clear prop. And we have a good start. Okay, there's no need to tune in any navigation radios and things like that because we are going to be going fully VFR today. So we'll leave that set as it is, and we will switch on our taxi light and our strobe light and our nav lights, and we will get ourselves out to the airport, to the runway. Again, for the sake of today's flight, bear in mind it's a simulator flight, I'm not going to bother too much with air traffic control, but I am going to take, there's an aircraft just landed there, so although he's disappeared already, and we'll take a quick look either side and we'll move straight out. Okay, we're just about to join runway 25, so a quick outline about how this is going to work. The first leg, which I mentioned before, was a distance of, let's just remind myself, 6 nautical miles. We're going to have an 80 knot climb out up to an altitude of 3,000 feet. Now at 80 knots, that should take us around about 4 minutes 30, I calculated, to get to the first waypoint of Ouston. So we'll set the stopwatch going. As soon as our wheels leave the ground, 4 minutes 30 later, we should be roughly at RAF Ouston. So let's see how this goes. Just about to join the runway, so just a few final checks, make sure our landing light is on. And let's get lined up and get airborne. Okay, full power, and we're off. Airspeed's alive. 60 knots, rotate, airborne, start the clock, and we're looking for 261 degrees, and we'll take that heading once we leave the airport grounds, to the terminal area. In fact, what I normally do, there's a dual carriageway runs just sort of perpendicular to the runway. As we cross there, we'll take 261 degrees. There's the dual carriageway coming up there now. That's it there. So we'll take 261 degrees. Okay, and we're looking for an 80 knot climb out, so we'll adjust pitch to achieve that, which is around about there. So maintain that heading of 261, 80 knots, looking good. That's 1 minute gone. Speeding up a bit, let's pick the pitch up a little bit, let's trim that a bit better. Yeah, that looks a bit more stable, doesn't it? Coming on up on 2 minutes, so around about roughly halfway to Ouston. Holding 80 knots quite well. It's a lovely day for flying today, isn't it? Look at that. Now, if you look on the map, just before Ouston, actually just after Ouston to the left, there's some water features. So let's see if we can spot them. They'll be a bit easier to spot at a distance. And we do have some water features right on the nose. Heading's just drifted a little bit there. To bring that back to 261. We've just passed 3 minutes on the clock, so we should be very, very close. Anybody see an airfield down there? Yep, there it is. There's RAF Ouston there. So there's our first waypoint. We're going to arrive there perhaps a little early. there's 3,000 feet, so I'm going to throttle back and we're going to trim out for a 100 knot cruise, holding 3,000 feet. Let's keep an eye on that waypoint. There it is there, there's the old runways just beneath us. And that's come up to 4 minutes on the clock, so it's not too bad timing. Retrim the aircraft for 100 knots. And my next heading is going to be 250, 8 nautical miles. In a second we'll make that turn. That's 4 minutes 15, so I said 4 minutes 30, so that's not bad at all. So when I make the turn, I'm going to reset the stopwatch. I hit lap on the stopwatch. And lap and turn to 250 degrees. This leg will take approximately 5 minutes and 24. And I've overshot there because I was looking at my notes. 250, and this is going to take us to the market town of Hexham. So 250, I'm still looking to settle down at 100 knots, 3,000 feet. 30 seconds into this leg. Now, when picking visual waypoints for VFR, there's various things that I personally like to look for, which I find easily identifiable. One of which is athletics running tracks, things like that which are brightly coloured. And as luck would have it, Hexham has an athletics track right in the centre of the town. So that is what I'm going to use as my fix as we get closer. So I'm just trying to descend back down to 3,000 feet. But I am at 100 knots, although picking up speed a little bit, so I'm going to just throttle back a touch. We're 1 minute 15 into the leg of what should be 5 minutes and 24. There's 3,000 feet. degrees. That's the Tyne Valley running along there. Lovely part of the world, but then I'm biased. I'm always going to say that. Now, if we look at the map, the town of Hexham sits on the south bank of the River Tyne, just after this rather substantial bow in the river. So let's see if we can spot a bow in the river. And I'm looking at this bit over here, which might just be what we are looking for. This here. And that is indeed the market town of Hexham. We've got 2:41 on the clock. Reminder that the leg should take 5 minutes 24 at 100 knots. It did take us a while to settle down at 100 knots, however, so I may be a little off with that timing. And when we get there, we are looking for that athletics track as my fix, because that's where what I actually pinpointed within Navigraph as being that's the turn point for the next leg. Visibility out to the west looks very, very good and clear. You can see all the way out to the west coast of Cumbria. Right, that's definitely Hexham there, just off the bow in the river, sitting on the south bank of the River Tyne. We've got 3:50 on the clock of the 5 minutes 24 expected. scenery around here looks absolutely great, doesn't it, in the Microsoft Flight Sim. Ah, now look, is that a running track? Oops, wind pushing me a little bit there. That looks like a running track to me. So I'll turn a little bit towards that. Now see what I mean about things like running tracks, is you've got all the green of the countryside, but you've got all the grey concrete of the town. But smack bang in the middle is that lovely red circle or oval of the running track. I just find they're really good visual reference points. Okay, so here we are at Hexham. We're going to get ready for our next turn, which is out to 268 degrees. Now, I did say this leg would be 5 minutes 24. We're just passing 5 minutes there now. And we are smack bang over Hexham. So a little early. That's what, 5-10 seconds of the running track. So we'll arrive 10 seconds early or so. So we're going to turn to 268 degrees. For our next leg, to Haltwhistle, reset or press lap on the stopwatch. And there is 268 degrees. And this leg will take 7 minutes and 12 seconds. You can see the Tyne Valley lovely here. I mean, we're heading for Haltwhistle now. Yes, we'll be maintaining heading and things like that. Oh, come on, Microsoft Flight Sim, don't stutter on me. However, on a clear day like this, an absolutely wonderfully clear day like this, we're following the River Tyne, and you can see it leading out beautifully just ahead of us there. This is the Tyne Valley where it drops down there. There's the River Tyne running all the way through and back up the other side. Point of reference over on this side is where the River Tyne north and south join. That's the River North Tyne and the River South Tyne that join here, and that's the way they go down river towards Newcastle and out to the coast at Tynemouth. The wind's just pushed me a little bit, and I'm also descending a touch. I'm just going to retrim. It's the thing when you make a substantial turn in an aircraft like this without autopilot, you're hitting the wind slightly differently, and so you constantly got to keep re-trimming out your aircraft, because I've lost quite a bit of height there. Okay, that's 1:45 on the clock. Just coming up now on the north bank of the river, that's the town of Hayden Bridge. Okay, we've had 2:30 on the clock. Okay, we're coming up on 5 minutes on the clock, and I do believe that on the nose that there is the town of Haltwhistle, which is our next waypoint. And just below there now on the bend in the river, on the north bank of the river, is the town of Haltwhistle. There's a commonly held myth that the name of Haltwhistle has something to do with the railway line that runs through it. Kind of makes sense, but in actual fact it's just a corruption of the language, or that dates back to Roman times. I forget what the actual original name of the town is, but it's been corrupted over the years to become Haltwhistle. But that's the town just below us there now. So we said we would arrive in 7 minutes and 12. On the clock is now coming up to 7 minutes now. So we've arrived pretty much bang on time. Still holding, well, pick up a little bit of airspeed there, so we're going to throttle back a touch. Now we need to make our final run in towards the airport now, which is going via the town of Brampton, which is now on a heading of 261 degrees. And it's 10 nautical miles away, so that'll take us about 5 minutes to get there, but the actual runway itself is not that, about 3 nautical miles, beyond that, where we'll be entering the traffic pattern. So in readiness, I'm actually going to start a slow descent, and I'll recalibrate the altimeter now. So if you remember what we said whilst we were on the ground at Newcastle, to find our QFE, we need to divide the elevation of the airfield by 30, and then take that number and subtract it from the QNH. The QNH today is 1016. So what I need to do is remove 6 from 1016. So if we look here, we've got 1016 there now. So if I can basically take that down to 1010, that's me now set for QFE. So just reset me heading there, which what should be 261 degrees should be at. So whilst I was doing that, I've allowed the aircraft to drift just a little bit. But I'm in a gentle descent to round about, we'll come down to about 1,500 feet by the time we pass over Brampton, and then that'll allow us to remove the last 500 feet towards the 1,000 feet that I'm aiming for to enter the traffic pattern. Now we'll be coming on runway 19. Just check the weather. The weather is still the same. The wind is coming from, where was it, 160 degrees and 4 knots. I'm looking ahead there now to see if I can spot Brampton and seeing if I can spot the airfield. Right, well there's 1,500 feet, so I'm going to throttle back up to maintain 100 knots. I have allowed myself to drift a little bit to the right of track. So I'm just putting in a little bit more left correction. So we're trimmed out 100 knots, 1,500 feet. And we're looking for Brampton. This road here runs just to the south of Brampton, so I think that might actually be it there. Does make things a little bit harder to spot at distance once you've taken 1,000 feet or so off your cruising altitude. Everything's in a slightly lower perspective, so you've got to look at a little bit more closely, but I do believe that is Brampton there, which means just beyond is the airport. When we get to the traffic pattern, we'll be entering it on the downwind leg, a right hand turn to take on the downwind leg at 1,000 feet. And there's the airport there, look. There is a westerly runway which we're not going to be using because of the wind coming in at 160 degrees at 4 knots. We'll be taking runway 19. There's Brampton right on the nose. So the downwind leg for runway 19 is on a heading of 01 degrees, and we want to be flying parallel to the runway at a distance from it of about 1 nautical mile. There's Brampton there, but about to pass overhead Brampton. Once we pass overhead Brampton, we'll take the last of that 500 feet off our altitude to arrive at 1,000 feet for the traffic pattern altitude. Which we'll do now. You can see there's the runway that we're going to be coming on there, that's crossing over the westerly. There is no air traffic control at Carlisle, there's no tower, but there is a traffic frequency. If we're doing this for really beyond that frequency now, saying something along the lines of Sierra Golf 70, Cessna 152, entering downwind leg for runway 19. Anybody listening at that frequency would now be looking for my aircraft to see exactly where I am. And then you would update them calls as you go around the circuit. So almost at pattern altitude is 1200 feet. I've already got QFE dialed in, so I'm accurately positioned from altitude over the airfield. And we're going to be arriving at 1000 feet, bang on about 1 nautical mile from the runway. So I'm going to turn to the right onto the downwind. Dropped a little bit below the pattern height there, so I'll pick that back up. Okay, there's our runway there. Now what we're looking for next is for the threshold to be 45 degrees back from our position, which is around about now actually. So now I'm going to make my turn to base and continue my descent. Slowing down as I do so. Oh, I haven't turned quite tight enough. I'm going to have to do a bit of correction on the final. Extend the first notch of flaps. See, I think that's the limitation of a high wing aeroplane. When you're looking out for your reference points, particularly on a simulator, it's hard to spot them. A bit more flaps. Full flaps, aiming for the threshold. Throttle to idle, holding off, holding off, holding off, and we're down. Flaps up, and welcome to Carlisle Airport. Now the parking is actually behind us, so what we're going to do is we're going to swing it around here. There's our parking over there to the right hand side. Right, well there you go, that's a nice simple VFR flight from Newcastle to Carlisle. I found that the timings between the legs were quite accurate actually, as it turned out. The weather today was helpful, by the way. It was very clear and not a lot of wind, a little bit here and there, but not a huge amount, and that managed to get us here quite easily. If you enjoyed this kind of content, you know what I'm going to say next. It would be a great help if you could hit that like button, and also if you could consider subscribing. I'll be doing lots more videos such as this. If you'd like to know more detail about how I planned this VFR flight, let me know in the comments below. I'd also like to ask a favour of you guys as well, to give me ideas for other routes to fly. Whereabouts in the world are you? Give me some suggestions of a similar length of flight, and I may well plan a VFR flight around your very own neighbourhood. So just let me know in the comments below, and I'll see what I can do with that. And here we go, we'll just put it onto this stand here. Okay, park and brake set. Park and brake set, that was the primer. Engine mixture to out. Magnetos to off. Batteries to off. And fuel switch off. And to finish off, we'll switch all of our lights off. And there we go. Thank you very much for watching. I'll see you in the next video.